Sounds good. Do you like my cock?
I do. I when I was in Montreal, I got Kat a coffee mug where one of our running, like everybody has like if you're a couple, you have like little random inside jokes that are just like super dumb, but you repeat them over and over.
Mm,
So one of ours
yeah.
is
Most normal people.
yeah, I'll be like, I love you, and she's like, I love you too, and I'll be like, a latte, or like I'll be like, I love you a lot, and she's like, a latte, because we like to drink coffee too, and so
Oh God.
I got her a coffee cup in Montreal that says Lot A, like Canadian A, making fun of Canadians.
I see.
It's good stuff.
Oh man, we do have those like cringy jokes too.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh God. I was like not with you until you said it. I was like, oh wait a minute, yeah, we have those too. So awful. Uh, our running joke with like my mom is just we get a bunch of like cock stuff and say that like I'm slurping on this cock and like I'm like spilling liquid out of my cock and sucking the cock and things like that. That's kind of the running joke that we have.
Right, but referring to chickens and roosters instead of
No,
ferrets and weasels. Right? Yeah.
no,
Okay,
no.
well, we're demonetized, so anyway, I guess anything goes this stream.
Oh, boo! We're not gonna get our 30 cents from YouTube ad revenue. YouTube ad revenue in 2020. Oh God.
Jenkins,
Is
talk
it?
about Void Spirit Mid, guys, by Flame
Okay.
Records.
Uh, I feel like when it's on my team, it's really underwhelming, and he just dies all the time. And when it's on the enemy team, he is doing 10 billion damage and impossible to kill. That's how I feel about Void Spirit mid.
Yep. I think that if you're not building Yule's first item on that hero, then you're making a mistake. And pretty much anything you build after that is probably good. But you have to have one form of like save yourself so that you can save yourself with your mobility stuff.
I feel like with Void Spirit mid, you actually like need somebody else on your team that's doing well. They can like capitalize on his mobility and disable.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely one of those heroes, kind of like Ember, that can't end the game. Like he'll win you team fights over and over and over, but he can't actually end the game because he does no tower damage
Yeah.
and he doesn't really like straight up win team fights by being the strongest hero on the map. He just wins team fights by doing way too much damage over like the course of an engagement.
I actually feel like he's worse than Ember Spirit at carrying the game.
I agree.
He's just he's just a new hero, so he's like harder to kill, and he's like better at laning,
Yep.
things like that. It's yeah, I don't know. I've mixed feelings about that hero. It seems like it's kind of fallen off a little bit. Let me look at Dota 2 Pro Chart. I'm actually curious.
I think one thing that's really interesting right
Yeah,
now,
it's not even in the top 16 picks.
really,
So no.
I mean, he's pretty trash against Puck, if you think about it. He's actually awful against Puck.
Oh yeah. Oh for sure.
And
For
he's
sure.
awful against Doom. And I mean, just those two heroes alone are basically in every single game in high level pubs.
It's not the worst against Doom. It's like Ember versus Doom, where the Doom cast point is so long that
True.
you can outskill it. I've been really liking Puck versus Doom because if he tries to Doom you, you can just silence his Doom animation
Mm-hmm.
or and then phase shift. Like it's almost impossible to Doom a Puck.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Lion against Puck recently. That's like one of the only heroes that feels good.
Yeah, Lion's definitely pretty good. Rasta is pretty good
Yep.
as well. Is that like taboo to call him Rasta? Like isn't like Rastafarian?
Yeah,
Isn't that
but
like a religion?
it is, but that's his name. So,
Rastafarianism is an Abrahamic religion developed in Jamaica during the 1930s, classified by a new religious movement and a social movement. So it's like these are people.
yeah. Well, lions are animals.
What do they call that? What do they call it when somebody wears like a Native
Cultural
American
appropriation.
costume? Right, cultural appropriation. Why can we do it with them? Those motherfuckers. How dare they at Valve?
Yeah.
How dare they?
Let's get up on our SJW soapbox right now and talk about how much we
Okay.
hate Valve.
Yeah, Valve is evil. Valve is evil.
Valve is the evilest video game company in the world. How dare they patch the game right before the minor and balance some of the heroes that the meta is more wide open? What a
I gotta be
terrible,
honest.
terrible team of
I'm
developers.
I'm I'm actually disappointed with the patch.
Dude, the patch did
I
nothing. It
yeah.
actually did nothing other than maybe make Tree kind of bad in the laning stage for the first couple levels.
I actually wish that they wouldn't. I just find it so boring to uh have heroes just get nerfed.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see some like at least minor buffs. It's like opening up a Christmas present and it's like bagels or something like that, or it's
A
like
pair of socks.
socks.
Yeah, a pair of
Yeah,
socks.
and it's like, oh, this has utility,
Right.
and then the person that got you the gift is like, correct,
Yep.
and then you just move on feeling zero emotion other than you're thankful that you're not going to have to get new pairs of socks the next time you lose a pair to the wash. Um, which is cool. That's like exciting in the adult world or whatever, but we're all kids when it comes to gaming. And patches are supposed to be special Christmas presents from Valve. And they gave us a pair of goddamn socks. And I'm not grateful.
Yeah, what's really interesting about patches too in the Dota community is that either they patch the game like this with very minor numbers tweaks that actually don't change the heroes at all, other than maybe make them slightly less OP than they were before. And the people at the top end of the game will overreact to that and stop picking those heroes for a couple of days and then realize that those heroes are just as good. And everybody
Yeah.
else doesn't even realize that there was a patch, and they just continue to pick the heroes that were popular like a week ago, which is these same heroes. So the patch actually accomplishes nothing as far as changing the meta, and this happens over and over and over.
Let me tell you, man. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm biased. If any Valve employees watching this, I like your company. I'm just pissed off like a child gets upset with their parents because Pudge is inviable, Enchantress is dog shit. Uh, Nature's Prophet is a dog shit offlaner. Like all my favorite heroes are just bad right now.
Just pick
Uh,
Doom, man. Doom's fun.
no, he's not.
Doom's so
you,
fun, man.
you just like kill one person every time your Doom is off cooldown,
Yeah, but you get to kill the annoying
and
hero.
that's
You get to
it.
kill the OD.
Well,
You get to kill the puck. You get to kill the hero
sure,
that's really bothering you and making your game hard.
sure, but that's like I could say the same thing about Lion. Oh, you get to stun people. You get to turn people into sheeps. It's like these things sound interesting when you isolate them on their own, but then you get in the game and it's like, wow, this is fucking boring. You know, Pudge, I'm like sniping people with sick hooks. Nature's Prophet, I'm TPing to tier threes. Meteor hammering them, TPing to the other tier three, just like totally messing with people. It's just the whole package. That's what matters.
I
So
suppose.
I would just love to see some buffs. So there would be heroes that I'd be excited about trying. It's like, oh, it's a new patch. They changed Queen of Pain to have this. I'm gonna try to play her in the off lane. Like,
Right.
I want a reason to play the game, but heroes getting nerfed is like, okay, these heroes just are gonna be shittier now, but the other heroes are still just as shitty. It's just like in respect to the good heroes, they're better now, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I see your point.
Like it takes all the B tier heroes and moves them up. It doesn't add any new heroes to the B or S tier. You know what? Like there's no all the bad heroes are still bad. They're just slightly less bad.
Right,
Like
in comparison,
it
yeah.
takes the tier list and just shifts it like that as opposed to reorganizing the tier list, which is much more exciting.
True. All right, here's actually a good question by Owl's Nest. Because I've been noticing this as well. I've been using the Overwolf thing, which tracks your MMR gain and loss. And he says, why do I get almost no MMR after a win, but lose a hell of a lot of MMR? I'd say the ratio is 2 wins to 1 loss. And I would say, if I look at my Overwolf in my MMR tracking for the last, 30 games, I probably had, maybe 3 that were plus 28 or plus 27.
Can you
And
see it in there if you didn't have it open during the games?
I don't think so. I think you have to have it open during the game the whole time,
That's too
and
bad.
you can't disconnect early. But yeah, if I'm looking at this, it's plus 20, minus 23, minus 26, minus 34, plus 21, minus 28, minus 27, minus 28, plus 23, minus 29, plus 21. Like, what is that? Every single game is unbalanced.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's happening. Like, why is every game that I'm playing not
I was
allowing me to gain MMR?
so I've been on the opposite end of that. Yesterday I was on the opposite end of that where so let me tell you so I played I won one, then I lost two, then I won one, then I lost two, then I won one. So I went uh actually I started with a loss. So I went 3-5
Hmm.
and I stayed the same MMR.
Hmm.
I started at 7,200 and I was like 7,202 and I'm exactly 7,200 MMR right now from 5 losses and 3 wins.
Hmm.
And it feels so weird, but the games felt really hard and I wasn't really keeping track of my MMR until the end of the night. I looked at it, I was like, "Holy shit, I didn't lose anything for this." Like these games were all ridiculously unbalanced. Like if I look at my second to last game, I'm against like Sumail and then a bunch of rank 50s, and we do have a rank 6, but the numbers don't look right. Like they
Mm-hmm.
really don't look right, especially when you consider that like Sumail is literally rank 1, and to go from like rank 6 to rank 1 is a lot more MMR than going from like divine to immortal. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like at that end of it, it's like you've Abed who's number 1 is 10k, and then the next person's 9,200 or something like that,
Right.
who's literally rank 2. It's really weird. But I guess that's just the problem is you have all of these you have so many constraints, so many constraints that need to be satisfied to actually make a match happen. And when you're throwing in people who are like way higher MMR, okay, somebody on this team needs to be way higher MMR, but we're at the tail end of the distribution, so it just I don't know, fucks everything up.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like my last 5 games were plus 20, plus 18. How did that game even get made? How did I get a plus 18 game in like divine? There's enough players for sure. Plus 20, plus 18, plus 22, minus 28, and then I finally had a plus 27 at the very end. But it's like, what the hell is going on with the
That's
matchmaking system right now?
that's really weird to be happening in divine because
Yes,
that's not really at the tail end of the that's not like an anomaly end of the distribution. There's plenty of divine players queuing at all points. There's
exactly.
thousands upon thousands of divines. It's not like immortal where there are hundreds. Like there are thousands queuing at all times. I've even heard people in like ancient and in legend are complaining about, oh, I'm against divine smurfs. They're like 80% win rate divine smurfs, like basically professional players. And oh, I'm against because they're boosting these accounts so they can boost their friends who are in high rated games or play with their friends and not lose 35 MMR. Like there's
Right.
it's fucked up to me that the average matchmaking, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say average, but like the brackets where there shouldn't be any sort of anomalies or problems have tons of problems, as if it's at the tail end of the distribution when it's not. You know, it's like in
Yeah.
the, within the top 10 percentile is still hundreds of thousands of people. Dota 2 has quite a few players, so
Yeah. I mean, everybody's like, the game's dying right now. The player base is dropping drastically. And it's like, well, it's we've probably lost like 15,000 people concurrent over the last couple of months. If you don't factor in all the people who are not playing auto chess anymore on the client, which boosted the
well,
numbers by like 100,000
I mean, I think
or
it's I
more.
think here's the thing is like I think it's perfectly fine for people to quit the game in like a shitty patch. I
Sure.
actually I sat down the other day and like I couldn't get it out of my head. Do you ever have this where you just have thoughts going around in your head so much you need to like write about it
Hmm.
or you need to talk about it. You need to just like you just need to get it out. So I wrote my reasons for why I think this patch made Dota shittier and why I think that it doesn't work. And I was thinking of making a video about it. I'm not 100% sure because I'm fine with saying this in like a podcast setting because well, a lot less people are going to watch a podcast than just a video that's a few minutes long. A video that's a few minutes long, it's like targeted. You know, it's like when Moise was asking about making the video, clipping the portion about Sumail where I talked about how Sumail was like abusing matchmaking, and I said something along the lines of like, if it's in a podcast, it's like we're just talking about a topic, but if it's a video specifically, that's like targeting him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's like
so I don't want
to.
Right. It's like calling him out. So I don't want to sound negative about the game in a video, but I'm perfectly fine saying it here.
Right.
Maybe I'll make a video, but I basically think that Dota has boiled down to we lack choices. Like we lack feeling like our skill has any impact on the game. It's just running around fighting. And I can tell you exactly why it's true. Like mathematically why it's true. So I was playing a game the other day and I was Winter Wyvern. In fact, this was the game against Sumail that I was just referencing. And I was fucking feeding relentlessly to the point where if this was in any previous patch, the game would be over because I was doing so poorly and having such a low impact in a role that I don't understand. And I was really, let's say fucking the pooch. I was having a very bad game on a role that I'm already not good at, position 5. So I should have had nothing. But guess what? My inventory was full. I was picking up all of the garbage items off the ground. I was getting the thing that makes my cast range longer. I got that ring that basically gives you a mechanism that makes it, and I used it in a fight to bait, and we got 3 kills because they went on me and I saved myself with it. And so I was playing like garbage, but I had so much kind of net worth that's not really calculated at the end because of the neutral items. And that made me realize that a net worth lead doesn't mean anything anymore because you have a BKB, right? Let's say you have a 5K net worth lead on the enemy team. That means one of your cores has a BKB. Whoop-de-fucking do. That means there's one more neutral item in the ground in their fountain when in your fountain, you don't have any neutral items because there's so many items that people are dropping them in the fountain. People are always 6 slotted. No matter what the net worth is, people always have the same amount of items because of the neutral items. So this just made me realize that that's why a lot of these games feel like they're comebacks. It's not really comebacks that are happening. It's that there's so much wasted net worth sitting on the ground in fountains that everybody's going to be 6 slotted, and picking up items past those 6 slots has such diminishing returns that if you have a 10K gold lead, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because that's just 2 items that are going to be on the ground in the fountain. You know what I'm saying? It's like if there wasn't an abundance of items, then this net worth means less the more you have of it, the later the game goes because everybody's just slotted. So that's one thing that removes the feeling of like skill and your choices actually having an impact in the game. There's the obvious one that Reddit bitches about a lot, which I actually agree with, and it's that it's so telling what you need to do in the game. Like 5 minutes, bounties. 7 minutes, neutral item spawn. 10 minutes, outposts. 5 minutes, bounties. 15 minutes, neutral items. This tier 2 neutral items. 20 minutes, outposts and bounties. 5 minutes, 25 minutes, bounties. Like at every single point, there's somewhere that you need to be in the game. And it makes you've lost choice. You've way less choice because you have to do these things or you're going to lose the game. So we're taking a game and we're removing choices from it. At what point are we playing a fucking point like a game where you're just clicking to get resources? And then think about this too. The couriers. Everybody has 5 couriers. Do you remember the thing that they've removed where you could have infinite resources and it was removed because it was really lame to have infinite resources? Bottle crowing. They've removed bottle crowing because it was fucking lame. Yeah. They've removed bottle crowing because it gave infinite resources. Then they gave everybody a fucking courier. So now everybody has infinite resources.
Yeah, it's true.
One of the main reasons Turbo isn't fun is because people just send out salves all the time.
Yeah, now you can do that, and true.
One of the choices that you had to make during the laning stage that made you either a good or a bad laner would be that you had to be good at resource management.
Yeah.
Now, when I look at Archon games and I see people not send out regen, it's like, all right, dude, you just like have this isn't some crazy math problem that you need to solve anymore where it's like, okay, you need to calculate how much regen you need or send out the courier when your mid doesn't. There's no management. You have an infinite courier you could use as many times as you want. You get low HP, you send out a salve. There's
Right.
no choice. I don't choose anything. It's just what you do. And everybody has the exact same capability of doing that because it's easy. You click the little salve potion looking green thing in the shop, and then you press the courier button, and then it comes to you. And
Yeah.
you don't have to manage resources. And so basically they're just removing choice after choice after choice after choice out of the game. And when you remove choices from a game, that's what makes games fun. It's feeling of impact. That's what makes games competitive. So I actually understand why people don't like this patch. Now that I've sat down and actually thought about it, they're removing the nuance of Dota.
Dota
There's
has
less
Amazon Prime now. It's very
and
true.
and I do want to say that you posted about this on Reddit. I said this. Ellie was saying to me the other day, you were wrong on Reddit. I was wrong. Ellie is wrong. There is no value in securing neutral camps. There's no value. It's not like, oh, the jungle matters so much more now. The jungle's an objective. That in theory is true, but in practice, it's fucking not. You farm the jungle for 30 seconds. You kill an easy camp that has those like 7 different things in it, the knolls. You get 2 jungle items.
Right.
All the enemy team needs is access to 1 jungle camp, and they're going to have every neutral item because the drop chance is so high.
True.
So it's not like the jungle was actually added as an objective to the game. They just removed net worth being an impactful thing in Dota, which is fucking stupid because there's 2 resources in Dota. XP and gold. You get XP from the outposts, and you get gold from bounties and from these neutral items. They're worth gold. They give value. So
Right.
it's like the theoretical good thing about the patch is like, no, you guys are wrong. The jungle is now an objective just like towers. Yes, in theory, that's true. In practice, so horribly incorrect. And I was thinking one way that they could maybe improve it.
What if there's
I
only
don't
like
even,
one item that dropped per tier?
here was my way to improve it. I really think you just remove this shit altogether, and they went down a dark path, and I'll explain why I think that's true afterwards. But I would say like a way to actually make the jungle an objective where you need to secure it is that the way that you earn neutral items is you clear an entire jungle in a minute. And if the enemy team kills any of the camps in that jungle, you don't get a neutral item. But on the last camp that you kill, if you've cleared the entire jungle, you get a neutral item.
God, that's
So
so
basically,
convoluted though.
well, yeah, outposts are fucking convoluted, but basically, that would make it so that there's actual value in warding around a jungle and securing a jungle. And that would get it to the point where, all the positive people after the patch were saying, oh, the jungle's an objective now. That would actually make it an objective. But obviously that's convoluted. So I want to get to my point. So I think a big problem with what has happened with Dota is that up until 7.0, it was largely still the game that was created by the community. Like, all of the heroes were ideas at a point from the community. All of the items added into the game, like Ice Frog, was essentially just a conduit for the community, and it's gotten to the point where it's so different from that thing that was developed over 10 years by thousands upon thousands of people and iteration upon iteration of Warcraft 3 and StarCraft map, that now it's just a new game developed by essentially a few developers, and they're just making choices like any other developer. But that's what made Dota special, is that it was this thing where it's like, you can't give me anything like this because this followed an organic path. Just like with Fortnite, it came from DayZ, which was an Arma mod, and then DayZ, the standalone version, shit the bed, which made H1Z1 more popular, and then H1Z1 made the version that was basically the Battle Royale, and then this led all to Fortnite, right? That organic path, I can't just go out and create a Fortnite clone and have it be successful. It's not going to work like that. What's going to be successful is a totally new genre that followed an organic path just like that. And that's why Dota was successful. And I really think that we need to go back to having this kind of community-based growth for the game. And we were there at first with Valve. Like, they had the Steam community market where you could put your own sets in the game. Like, there was a lot of community contribution. So I don't know what happened, because I think it started there and it was close enough to the original Dota that we were still kind of on the path of remaining Dota, but I think we're so far off of what Dota was. Every set in the game is a set from a few individual creators. A lot of them just hired for Valve. Tournaments can't get their own like compendiums in the game anymore. The changes, like they're not even getting tested on like servers or anything like that. It's just it's straight up just like
It is
he puts
weird.
it in.
There are no test clients anymore. There used to be test clients every single time, right? There was a test client that you could play before every major patch up until like 2 years ago, something like that. Maybe
Right,
until
right.
Source 2, was it? By the way, congratulations, Corey, on going from Archon 4 to Divine 2 by watching our stuff. That's
That is
amazing.
crazy. Yeah,
But
that's insane growth.
yeah, I mean, I agree. At the same time, like I really do like that they've given some balance to the roles in terms of like it's really hard because like they've done so much balancing around the pro scene, right? The pro scene became so huge because of all the money that it has such a huge influence on what gets patched. And then they've also tried to make the game more approachable for everybody in terms of like not just one player gets to have fun every game, which is kind of how it was in Dota 1 or 2, which is like the carry becomes the carry and everybody else is just like
Right.
a piece of garbage that gets killed by the carry.
So I just think like I agree. I don't just obviously that I'm not a hater of this patch. I enjoy the patch. I still enjoy Dota, but all I'm saying is objectively it is not the same as it was. We are playing essentially a different game, and maybe the game just doesn't appeal to that many people. Maybe we actually liked getting kind of fucked on supports and needing to be very high skill to have an impact. Like
I used to
maybe
really
people
like
actually
the
really like
3v1
that.
offlane. Like 3v1 offlane was my favorite part of the game for
Yeah,
a long
yeah.
time.
That's kind of what I'm saying is that like maybe that was kind of the special magic of it, and we just we didn't know it at the time because I mean, how can you know these things? Really, we're not perfect game developers. I mean, Valve obviously is, and look at Artifact. Like nobody can know what actually makes a game like 100% magical and have it have a profound grip on you. But it seems to me like Dota has lost that grip on people in this patch. Maybe I'm listening to the loud minority here, but I don't know. I feel like the minority has never really been this loud before.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, like, man, I don't know. Like, I really trying to think how to word this. I don't know. Let me think about it. Let's go on to a couple of questions.
Sure. Okay. We'll get to the patron questions.
All
By the
right. So,
way, welcome to Alchemy Answers 61.
yep, this
That
has
was a
been a long
long
rant.
intro,
Long rant.
but that's okay. We have only not too many questions, and also it's important.
It
This is
is.
this is this is important. This is the game we play. My fear is that if Dota did shit the bed, I don't know what game I'd play because Dota is the game that like I haven't moved on to another game yet. I still really enjoy Dota. Before I moved on between games. Anyway,
Would you play League?
no, I don't. I think if I were to play a game, I wouldn't just play another MOBA. I'm definitely looking forward to like Diablo 4. I'm definitely looking
Mm,
forward to that game.
sure.
I'm a huge Diablo fan. I would want to switch to something that's different. I wouldn't just go to the next MOBA, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. So Fazy, pronounced Fuzzy, says, I assume Venge 5 is a decent pick in almost any game. Is this correct? I think so. I think it's pretty decent. What I'm getting at is whether is she even good, or sorry, is she good even without many ranged heroes, Drow or similar heroes? What about Venge 4 and Venge 3? I think you probably want to pick it with ranged heroes if you can. If I go to Dota 2 Pro Tracker, you can see that Venge is not as popular as she once was. And I think the reason for that is so if you look at her win rate, she's at like 692 picks and 56% win rate. So that's quite good. But the reason that I think the picks are so low is because people are only picking her with ranged heroes now. So I would
Mm,
really look to just kind of copy what the pros look like they're doing. It's a fine hero though. I think swap just is something that's going to be really strong. She gives people stats. She does minus armor. She has good harass. She has a decent stun. It's never
Everything's
going to
low
really be a bad
cooldown,
hero.
really good at fighting
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty terrible against Puck, I will say. That's another reason that she's not getting picked as much. Is that hero is really bad against Puck.
Swap people, break the coil.
Yeah.
She's good with Puck.
Yes.
Or similar question. The question I want to tie into, however, is a bigger one. How do you recognize the right skill build for a flexible hero like Vengeful Spirit? I see high skilled players maxing aura by 8, getting rank 3 wave by 7, some still maxing stun by 7. It feels pretty hard to find patterns in reasoning within the replays. I feel like some of the skill builds might just be suboptimal. What is a good approach? I would actually say that for this might be like a little controversial depending on who you ask, but I think with most pro level players, they're following instinct. And if you ask them why they did that after the fact, they could tell you, but they weren't thinking really about it at the time. It was just in the game. It felt like they needed more points in stun.
Yep.
Like, let's say the minus armor, you're just not getting really close enough to people to use it, or you don't have that much right click, or you really need some disable, or you want some burst damage with the stun, then you max the stun. If you have a bunch of ranged heroes and you want to stand far away from people in 5-man, then maxing the aura might be good. But if you just want to jungle really quickly or push lanes really quickly, or you do have good minus armor, or you have like an Ursa, you can max the W. It just depends on what you want. And none of the skills on Venge are like significantly better than the other skills, that there's always one set skill build. That's the thing with her. So
right.
another consideration is like laning. Sometimes there are skills that are specifically for laning, and then when the laning ends, there's no longer a point in leveling that skill up because it was just to win the lane, such as like the W maybe.
That's what I was gonna say. Is sometimes also like the laning stage will change. Like maybe you guys accidentally feed and suddenly you can't pressure the other team, and so the skills that you would normally skill to pressure people are no longer valid because you can't use them because you're just too far behind now. Or the person that you're laning against leaves the lane, and so you can't actually harass anybody. So there's no point in leveling the harassing stuff, and you should just go for the more utility stuff that's going to allow you to transition into the mid game. So it really is just like reading the game from minute to minute, what's going on and what seems necessary based on what's available to you in your skill build.
Yeah, I agree. But a lot of the time it's just instinct. It's just what you feel you need in the game. No crazy logic behind it or anything.
Yep.
So, okay. ID the Magnificent says, me and my friend are spamming position 5 Ogre and position 1 Drow. That's a good lane. I'm not exactly sure what the best build on Ogre is after the laning stage. I start with 3 Mangos, 1 Tango, build into Ring Basilius. For the mid to late game items, do I just build items that counter the enemy team? Is that the general rule of thumb for position 5s? You don't have any required items, so you just counter the enemy. How do you choose which aura to build in the game? Is it easy to tell when to build pipe? When should I build a Vlad's over Greaves, Helmet Dominator over Vanguard, etc., etc.? So I think like if you're playing like a Drow dual lane, you almost always want Vlad's.
Mm-hmm.
Dom is going to be fine too, but you would probably prefer some like offlaner to get that. Also like
utility, Glimmer Cave, Force Staff.
Yeah, I was gonna say Glimmer, Force. Position 5s just tend to be the heroes that can get those. You have a gold talent, so it's pretty good to get those. And if you have a Drow that you're trying to protect, then it's pretty good to have these like extremely defensive items, that you can save them with. But yeah, I mean it's very simple. Like for me, there are certain heroes that I like to go pipe against, like Zeus, Venomancer, things like that. I don't just go for it in every single game. Vanguard, same thing. It's like if there's a Phantom Lancer on the enemy team, some sort of small damage source, but like lots of little damage intervals, then like Crimson is really good against that. Medallion is good for taking Roche, which with a Drow, you could probably do that a lot. I would say on like a 5 Ogre, probably Vlad's, Medallion, Glimmer, Mana Boots, Force, that sort of thing. You're never going to go wrong with those. Yep. They're all small items, generally pretty good and good with Drow. You want to build for your team as well as against the enemy team. But you don't have that much gold to spare, so it is a little hard. Okay. Fuzzy says, recently started duo queuing with my low MMR rated friend who is around 1,000 to 1,500 MMR below me and somewhat out of practice. I want to help him get better. win games, and have fun. I'm pretty sure micromanaging fails all three of these goals, but due to him asking questions and me being seen as a more knowledgeable player with better game feel, our games gravitate towards that. What can I do instead of this? Do you guys have any experience stacking with people like that? I was thinking of limiting our picks both so we would always play plus. I really like that idea. I really like that. Whenever I queue with my girlfriend, I basically make her play position 4 and only like 2 or 3 heroes.
Just land
Because
together and have like a set combo pretty much to
right,
work on.
it's way easier. It's way easier. And she said that when she was doing that, she felt like she was getting a lot better. And it's basically just because whenever you're dual laning with somebody, you get to actually practice. Let me tell you, man, like you can be an ancient player and you can play with like a 7K player and dual lane. And after like 10, 20 games, you're gonna play like a 7K because you're gonna have figured it out together. It's just repetition.
Yep.
Uh, so many people don't do that in Dota. They're like they play all these crazy wacky combos and Jesus Christ. Imagine like one day you're just like trying to ride a bike without knowing how to ride a bike, and then it goes horribly. And then the next day you're like, okay, bike didn't work. I'm gonna ride a unicycle, and that goes fucking horribly. And none of your biking practice helped, so that goes horribly. And then you just like get on I don't know, get on like a scooter, and then you fuck up the scooter and it hits your ankles and it really hurts. Like that's what if you just stuck to the bike by the third day, you would know how to ride the bike already. But for some reason in Dota, people don't treat it like that. So
Yeah, I
just
actually I've been making I wrote the script maybe 8 months ago and I still haven't made the video, but it's why you're stagnating at your rank. And I think I'm going to finally make the video because I've been stagnating at my rank and I'm just catching all these habits over and over and over again. And the biggest one is that you just instead of like committing to the heroes that you know are good or the heroes that you know you can play, every time you lose, you look for another tool. It's like you go and you're trying to, I don't know, like fix a house or something like that, and there's a nail that you need to hammer in, but you don't have a hammer. So like you pick up a screwdriver and you try hitting it with that, it doesn't work. And then you pick up a saw and you try hitting it with that. And then in reality, you could just like walk to the store and buy a hammer and then you could finish the project. But instead, you're just looking at all these like 119 other tools that you could be picking. And instead of just doing the logical thing, which is to play the heroes that you're good at, you're trying to find some other thing. You're finding excuses not to pick these heroes. Like, oh, well, I had a bad game against this hero one time, so I probably just shouldn't pick this hero. Instead of like changing your item build, instead of changing how you're approaching the game, instead of changing how you counter that hero, you're just looking for an entirely other hero to play so you don't have to go through that experience again. And another thing that I had happen to me today is that I was queuing with a friend, and the first game that we played, we were playing. I've been picking a lot of 4 Doom recently, and so we played a lane where we were Beastmaster Doom.
That's a good 4.
Yeah, we were Beastmaster Doom, and we were against a PA Warlock, which we should just absolutely crush. But we did a couple things wrong, and the game was extremely hard. And then before the next game, we were like, all right, this camp cannot be blocked, and we need to play. And I knew that I needed to skill build something different, and then we needed to play like the first couple of waves slightly different. And so we talked about that for like 30 seconds before queuing for the next game. And we went into the next game and we absolutely just completely crushed the game. And it was like night and day against the same skill people. Like this game was super easy and this game was impossible to win.
I always say to people, like, if you're stagnating, are you actually going into different? Are you like are you taking anything from your games? Like
Right.
after you lose a game, you should have some reason that's like, okay, God, I need to stop dying after winning the laning stage. Like I'm just trying to fight too much. I need to stop dying. And then the next game, you like try to focus on that, and then you lose for another reason. Then you just keep improving.
Yep.
And one of these games, you're gonna play incredibly well. It's gonna go very well because you're gonna find the thing that was really causing you a lot of grief. But the problem is a lot of people just keep queuing. They just queue, and they're not actually trying to improve anything between the games. But a lot of the time, it's just like, wow, I suck.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing. It's like, yeah, you suck because of probably one thing that you're fucking up. Just fix that thing. Don't be an idiot. It's very easy. Unless you're ignoring the fact that you suck, which I don't know. I don't see how that's going to help you improve, get your MMR. Like at some point, you're going to have to admit that you suck. So why not just be like, wow, I suck. All right. Why do I suck? Like, what am I doing right now?
Right.
And I guarantee you within like 2 to 3 games, you won't feel like you suck anymore. because you'll find the thing that was causing you to stagnate. As long as the very first step is being like, I'm so shit. What happened to me? Like, why am I so shit right now? What can I do to like not have this happen again? All right, I'm never dying past the laning stage. Like, just have that idea, something like that. Just have an idea going into games based on the previous ones. It is quite simple, but Dota really baits you into like binge queuing and not really having any ideas, which is not good for improving. Okay, so SDFS25 says, why does Jenkins like to keep long hair, and how long has he been keeping it? I want to say laziness, but I do also have this insecurity that my dad is very bald, and my grandparents are quite bald as well. So I feel like if I cut my hair off, I'm not gonna have it anymore. It's not gonna grow back. So
You gotta enjoy it long while you got it, right?
yeah, exactly. While I can, so that's why. And so it's been years. I've had long hair. I've always had a very feminine look. I don't know. I feel like I have a super feminine aura about me. You know, I'm very female, as you know, Donnie. You always call me mother and things like that. It's really weird. So it's honestly a bit of like a Norman Bates type relationship that Donnie and I have. Obviously, I'm not Norman. I'm the mother, but yeah, he needs to stop calling me late at night. How long is a coaching session for Jenkins, and how does it go? I've been doing just replay analysis. That's usually what I do. But I did do a like kind of a session with my girlfriend where we were Jesus, that sounds anyway. We were she was playing like Snap,
Just
or she was
one,
playing like Treant.
or is this a
Just
regular thing?
Just one. Doesn't happen too often.
Okay.
Unless your mom is in town, then we do a session. But we did. She was playing, and I actually kind of liked it more, just because it felt like I had an idea of what was happening in the game, and I could tell her like, "You're being greedy. You're about to die," and then she would immediately die. And like I would be able to. It was really overwhelming for her. She was actually getting kind of pissed with me because I just wouldn't stop talking about stuff. But she went and played Treant like a few games after and said that it went like extremely well. I was pointing out to her stuff that she was doing where it was like she forced the enemy team somewhere, and then she TP'd somewhere and fought at a good moment, and then somebody died somewhere else on the map on the enemy team, and then they killed two people there, and then the person who TP'd back to push the wave out, they died as well. And I was like, that wasn't your course, that was you. Like, you forced the map to be in that position. And that really lets things sink in to people, I think, more than replay review, because you can immediately see like, oh shit, that felt good. I just won the game, and recognized that I won the game with this like one move that I wouldn't have done otherwise. So I think it's a good way to really quickly have things sink in and internalize stuff. But it is very overwhelming, and definitely like during the actual game, it'll probably go worse.
Yeah,
because there's so much shit being said and to focus on.
In one of my recent sessions that I did with a guy that I've probably had like 5 or 6 coaching sessions with now, we were talking about how he wasn't abusing like his hero's ability to pressure in the lane and to like use his body to deny the enemy farm and access to the creeps when you're stronger than them. And like we went over this point a couple of times, and finally I was just like, you know what? Let's just get into a lane. Like, I want you to lane against me, and I want you to feel what it's like to just get completely owned by my positioning and my ability to bully you out of the lane. And so we did that, and immediately he was like, oh my god, like I can like I could just apply this to my game so easily, because all you have to do is just like put yourself in a position to make it so the other person has a hard lane, instead of just like sitting behind your creeps and waiting for them to get low and then clicking them. Like, you can influence the lane so much more than just like securing last hits based on whether you're strong or weak.
Yeah.
So
like a lot of the time, if you're strong, all you need to do is stand in the creeps.
Yeah.
And then they lose the lane. You don't even need to hit anybody, nothing like that. You just stand in the creeps.
Yeah, and so I've been playing with a lot of these ideas of like kind of integrating drills into some of my coaching sessions. And I think that like laning drills are really good. I think that if I were to coach like a team or something like that, I would really want them to run like safe lane plus hard support against off lane plus 4, like over and over, just run the laning stage over and over, so that they would get practice against each other. in that scenario. That kind of stuff. Obviously the last hit trainer is really good if you're struggling with last hitting, figuring out combos, that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of stuff that you could explore as far as like how to train better in the game.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of teams do laning practice quite a bit.
Mm.
Nowadays. It's kind of like a newer thing,
Yeah.
but it is very, very good. Okay, so Fuzzy, once again, God damn it, Fuzzy, you got so many questions. What do you? I'm just kidding. I love you. What do you do and recommend doing to ensure your mental state and health is at its best when playing Dota? Exercises, good sleep, plenty of water, meditation. Is there anything special you do before or in between games? God, that is a whole subject, and I
Yeah.
think I feel like Dota is a great metaphor for life in general, just because you can very quickly see you could very quickly see a positive mental state turn into actual realized MMR. Like you have a number that represents how good you are.
Yep.
And you can very quickly go from like I went from 7K to 7.7K in like 2 weeks. And I gotta say that was like those 2 weeks. I was on the ball. Like I really felt good. Now I'm at like 7.2, 7.3, and I can't get up there.
Mm-hmm.
It feels impossible. I was so good during those couple of weeks, and there's very little like that in life where you can immediately see. That's why doing like weightlifting and stuff is really cool, because that's one of these other things where you can actually see your progress because you can just lift more. Whereas if you're working, there's going to be some like bullshit metric that they judge you, that HR developed, that doesn't really fucking work. There's a bunch of dicks that have a job because they just played politics and they don't really do anything. I'm not gonna name any names because there's still people out there, but there's people that I've worked with in like professional situations that everybody knows they don't do anything, and when a reorg happens, like they're likely to get removed and they're worried that they're going to get removed.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the cool thing about Dota. Anyway, so to give you like what works for me, exercise, that's something that for me it gives me confidence. I feel like I think a lot clearer when I'm exercising, or when I have exercise. It gives me energy. Good sleep for sure. To give you an example, this is going to sound really crazy, but I find it interesting to have these little anecdotes. So I was subtitling a video the other day, and I was very tired. I was noticeably tired. I knew I got like 6 hours of sleep. I had to get up to like do something, and I was up for the whole day. So it was right before bed. I was subtitling a video. We were working on a video for another website, and usually what happens is, to do the subtitles, I listen to like a sentence, like using my ears. I listen to myself talking, and then I write out what I said. And it's just listen, write, listen, write. And this time I had to like listen 5 times in a row. I swear to God. I was listening, I was remembering the first half, and then I'd get to the second half of what I was saying, and then I'd forget the first half. And I'm not kidding. 5 times in a row I had to listen. And it took me 5 times as long to subtitle the video because I was tired.
Yeah.
And it just made me think, what the fuck am I doing in Dota when I'm this tired? It's
Terrible.
a little harder.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's harder to see the ratio where it's like, okay, this is taking me 5 times as long as I normally do. In that example, that's why I like this example, because you could very clearly see the ratio of how shitty I got performance-wise. But in Dota, you're going to perform worse. In life, you're going to perform worse. They've done studies where, well, I followed somebody who, my girlfriend actually showed me this person, but they intentionally made themselves tired, and then they tried to go to the gym and work out, and they could do about half as much. Like they could not get it up, so to speak.
Yep.
Not sexually, but well, that probably would be a problem as well.
That probably happens eventually as well if you're very tired. Yeah.
Yep. So sleep, I think, is so much more crucial than people think. I've watched a lot of videos on this where sleep doctors basically say that there is a whole lot of very dangerous bullshit out there that people are listening to, and people have these ideas. It's one of these things where people have had the wrong idea about it for so long, and it's set in stone to us, and it's destructive. Like people are like, oh yeah, I stayed up for or I only slept for 6 hours and I was fine. No, you weren't. If you are performing well on 6 hours of sleep, that doesn't mean that, and if you do perform well, good for you. But I feel sorry for you because if you're performing well on 6 hours of sleep, imagine the person you could be on 8. Imagine what you could accomplish with more sleep that is scientifically proven to exponentially increase your performance. So good on you if you're sleeping for 6 hours and performing really well, but you could be a fucking Einstein, man. You could be a Kuroki, you could be a very successful person maybe because there's exponential increase to the value of putting more time into sleep, whereas just getting 2 extra hours of work where you're doing shitty work and performing shit for the whole day. Well, if you're good on that, cool, but probably want to sleep more.
Yeah.
See, I honestly think all the things you mentioned are good.
I will say that not everybody needs 8. Some people need 9. Some people need 7. I think the minimum. I watched some sleep doctor stuff too. There was a really, really good Joe Rogan podcast where they had a guy on who really opened my eyes a lot about sleep. And after that, I've started sleeping more because when I was probably for about 8 to 9 months, right in the middle of the Dota Alchemy grind, when we were both like barely paying rent, I was legitimately getting like 4 hours of sleep a night for like 9 months.
Yeah, it's not good.
It was really bad. And I would say, like, if I had to give you my perfect routine to be at peak performance in both Dota and like work and school or whatever, it would essentially be, for me, it's like 7 hours. If I sleep 8, I usually wake up feeling kind of sluggish, and a lot of times my body like doesn't even feel good because I've been lying prone for too long. So for me, it's like 7-ish hours. I really, really like waking up at like 4 in the morning or 4:30, 5 at the very latest. And then from there, I go and on my best days, I will go not pick up my phone for the first like hour and a half of my day. I will go and I will meditate for 20 minutes, and then I will go on a walk outside when it's dark, and I will just think about stuff. And I'll walk, and I'll literally just walk completely like based on intuition and feel, where I'll just like walk down the street and it's dark and it feels kind of cool because it's nighttime and nobody's awake, everything's super quiet, and I'll be like, I'll just like be drawn to like turn down the street, and I'll just turn down the street, and I'll just like wander around my neighborhood and think about all sorts of stuff. And it feels like I'm basically like sorting all of the like extraneous files that have stacked up on my mental desk and like sorting them out and cleaning my desk and filing them away. And then by the time I get back to the house, and sometimes my walk will be 15 minutes, sometimes it'll be like an hour, doesn't matter to me. By the time I get back, then I'll have breakfast, make myself a coffee, and by the time I'm done with that whole routine, it's usually like maybe 6 a.m. and then I'm ready to start working or playing Dota or working on a video. And
Donnie Grandpa confirmed.
and then I'll get stuff done, and I'll get so much done for like 3 or 4 hours, and then it will still be like 11 a.m. And I'm like, oh my God, I've actually accomplished more today before noon than I did like in the last week, basically.
Dude, I gotta say, I got up at 7 p.m. today, so my schedule is totally off
Yeah,
yours.
no, you're actually nocturnal. You've actually become a
But
nocturnal person, and that's
but
fine.
I'm not a actually doctors say that it's not fine. That's
As long as you're taking vitamin D supplements, it's probably not the worst. But
yeah, that's true. That's
yeah,
true. I drink what's it called? Orange juice. Is that vitamin C or D? I hope it's D. I think it's C though.
it's C.
Oh, that's too bad. Anyway, uh yeah, I'm similar. I'm similar where I my good days kind of go similar to that except at overnight
Yeah,
instead of
sure.
during the day. I like walking at night. What I do for like kind of meditation and clearing my thoughts. I actually had to specifically like um geez, this is gonna sound like sexual, but I was taking a bath, or I wanted to take a bath because I wanted to like think about problems and what I felt like I had a lot on my plate. I need to figure out like what I was gonna do next. And my girlfriend asked me if she could bath or bathe with me.
Hmm.
Not in a sexual way. It's just nice to like you have a bath and it's like
No, it's legit.
our our tub only fills up with like one thing of warm water, and then it's all cold. So it's like she couldn't go shower after me or something. Anyway, I
That's
don't know why
legit,
I'm
dude.
defending the sexuality so much.
It's okay to be naked with your
Okay,
partner.
okay. But so with that being said, I said like I said no. I was like for the first time I'm a very codependent person. I mean, as you know, being my partner for this Dota 2 YouTube channel, I'm very codependent. So for me to say no to something like that, it's very uncommon. I had to like force myself to do it,
Mhm.
and but I needed to get my thoughts together, and I did. I actually was having a problem with. So I'm making a game engine with a friend of mine from high school. That makes it sound like he's unqualified. He's a very good programmer. He works at IBM. So, but, we're trying to be really legit with it. It's a web game engine, and we're building out like a poker game with it. And I was working on like the mobile side of the engine, and I had this problem that it wasn't necessarily really all that complicated, but it was something that required like wit to figure out. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, I need this function to stop. I need this thing to stop happening. I can tell you exactly what it is actually because it's relatively basic. So essentially, what was happening is on mobile, there's like portrait mode and there's landscape mode.
Mhm.
What I wanted is I wanted our engine to work that you could hold your phone in your hand and play the game with one hand. I want people to be able to play on the John. Like I feel like web should be accessible like that,
Mhm.
where somebody can be doing something with the other hand and still playing. Like this game that we're making is a poker game.
Well, yeah, you should be able to do something with the other hand while you're on the web, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the problem was that whenever you opened up the mobile keyboard, it would think that it's in landscape mode because the width of the screen would technically be larger than the height of the screen because the mobile keyboard would take up the majority of the screen. So I was thinking like, okay, how do I get so it would switch from the portrait to landscape version of the game, which would look like total shit having a really tiny little landscape game there. Oh, fucking Henry's calling me. And it was awful. It looked really awful. And I sat down in the bath, and within 2 minutes of literally thinking about nothing, it just came to me. And the solution was that I was to see if something was, and once again, this is very simple, and I just needed to figure this out. But the solution was to, if it was already in portrait mode, check to see if the width changed, as well as if the width is greater than the height, and don't do that for landscape mode. And that way, when it switched to the keyboard, the width would still remain the same because your phone wouldn't get smaller, only the height would get smaller because the keyboard came up. So all I needed to do was add in one extra thing to the if statement, and it fixed it. And I swear to God, I was thinking about that for like 3 days. I was like, among with a dozen other problems, but it's such a simple solution, and all I needed to do was sit down and clear my mind. And it's like, oh fuck, that's so easy. That's so easy. I just check to see if the width is equal, and if it is, I don't change it, and then it fixed it. And now the mobile version like looks perfect. It's really nice. But
Yeah,
I couldn't think of it without clearing my mind. I literally couldn't.
yeah. There's been a lot of sort of like anecdotal evidence that um, people like Einstein made most of their big breakthroughs in like moments of like flow where they were just like not doing anything in terms of like they weren't working on a problem, they were just like going for a walk.
Did you make a sex joke that I missed? Is that the one hand thing? Your
What?
the masturbation?
No, I would never say anything like that.
Okay,
I
sure.
I'm trying to talk
I
about
was I
Einstein
was
right
so
now.
I was so into my little like problem that I was thinking about. I didn't even notice your masturbation
Well,
joke.
that's because I didn't make one. So let's go on to Einstein because that's what's actually
Okay.
important. Um, but like the whole clearing your mind part is just shown over and over to like be how you actually solve problems. Like most people will not solve a problem when they're looking at it and trying to like work through the complicated logical chain, and then they go to sleep, and then they wake up and they have the answer for it. And
Yeah, yeah.
that's totally what happens to me like on these walks is a lot of times. And I've used this as an excuse, and I can admit that it's an excuse now because I try not to do it anymore, where I would be like, I need a video idea. I can't think of anything to make a video about. And the only way I can come up with an idea to make a video is to just spam games until like super late in the night. And hopefully I will figure out something throughout one of these like 6 games to make a video about. And I would do this
Oh,
over
that's
and over and over
addiction.
and over. And then now that I do these walks, I'll come up with like 10 really good video ideas in like 15 minutes. Just because I'll be like, yeah, that sounds kind of interesting. Yeah, I could totally do that. And I'll like even like half script it out in my head and come back and write them down. And then I won't make them because I'm lazy, but at least I have these ideas.
When it comes to video ideas, I just try to. It's really nice that Ellie plays. I should honestly pay her dividends because we just like talk about the game and then she'll say something that like I'm like, oh my god, that's a perfect video title, or I'll say something and it's like I need to write this down. She said something like the golden rule of Dota, and I was like, yo, if somebody made that like a video title and made the thumbnail like just all gold and it actually had like one good rule in there that could be like elaborated on, it would do insanely well. We were talking about like spamming the same hero because it is like the number one rule. And fuck, I had to write it down. I was like, dude, Ellie, that is such a the way it clicked in my head. I was like, oh, the golden rule of Dota, big gold thumbnail that's showing up, like
Right.
the number one. You wouldn't even need to clickbait it. You could just have it be simple. Like the best thumbnails and title combinations are the ones that are just so simple,
Yep.
but resonate with people.
Yep.
I find anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be like tits hanging out or like
no,
like
that stuff is guaranteed to get views, but it's not going to get a ton of views.
Right. Those are not the ones that will actually go viral. The ones that actually go viral are like the real reason you can't make money or something like that. Like a video
some shit like that
would
just
instantly be clicked on by a million people.
Right. I saw one that was like the 30% rule or something, and then the title was like how to be the alpha in every conversation, some random shit like that. It's like, man, that is in the thumbnail. It was just the 30% rule. The 30% was framed, like the font was really nice, and then it was in like a little frame, and then just a guy, like a sexy hunk guy from a show there. And it's like so simple, but so many people clicked on it because it just stands out from everything else. But yeah, the Charisma on Command, yeah, URC knows it. Good channel. Yeah, with Game Leap, I think they they've got a business to run, so I mean, it's not speed that makes the thumbnails,
Yeah.
but they've got a business to run, so they're going to go for whatever is going to get them the most consistent views, and that involves having thumbnails that are just consistently like
their brand.
Yeah. So I understand with them, but definitely we've had periods where we try to go for like the more viral stuff, and it can just really fail. Or if you do a thumbnail like that and it just fucking sucks, it's really hard to tell what's going to do well.
Yep.
Anyway, Arboreal. Oh, sorry.
But sometimes we nail it, and other times we don't. And that's just kind of like that's actually probably the most fun part about YouTube, is like the game of trying to figure out what's going to be successful. But then ultimately, I don't know, maybe we just suck at it because it's very hard for us to figure out like this is going to be viral. We're good at figuring out this is going to be a fairly successful video, I think we can pretty much determine based on our thumbnail and title whether we're going to have a video that does like 30,000 views or 15,000 views or like 60,000 views.
Yeah.
But
El Wono, man, he is a god.
Yeah, that guy is a master.
He is a god of YouTube. I don't know. He's just so good. Okay, I actually have one of his things on my recommended right now. Okay, so Arboreal Phoenix says, I know you guys have made some content on pulling, but there are still some things I don't understand. For example, is it ever a good idea not to pull the lane? Should I be concerned that enemies will dive my core at level 1 or level 2? Yes, if the creep wave is like right in front of your tower and you have a drow or something like that, you only want to pull when the threat of being dove is not a big deal because the lane is so far up that you're going to get fucked anyway. That's when you want to pull. Usually when people are getting dove and fuck up pulling, it's because the lane is already in front of the tower and then they pull and it doesn't make any sense. I've had a few situations where I'll leave my core to pull. Creeps have doubled up to give my core extra experience, but many times they end up dying. Let it happen. Let them be the idiot. Just be good at Dota. Don't try to defend idiots. Like all you can do is tell your team that you're going to do things and go do it, and try to objectively think about like, okay, was it really obvious that like they're going to dive my core there, or like is my put your feet in their shoes. Try to think like, can they play this pretty easily where they're not going to die from getting dove? And if they can, just assume they're going to do it. And then when they don't do it, just chalk them up to being an idiot, because you want to play to as if you have good players on your team.
Yep.
Really, it's not an excuse to have bad players for you to play bad, because you'll just never improve if you're playing to your bad players, because they're bad. So there's a reason they're in the bracket.
Yeah, I actually played a game earlier today where my carry and I strongly disagreed on how we should play the lane, and I like it was one of those lanes where you had to kind of get the advantage in the first wave or two, otherwise the lane momentum shifts very drastically. And so we didn't get the momentum, and so I went and pulled. Or like I secured a range creep, or secured a creep that he was going to miss the last hit on, and he immediately just starts screaming at me on the mic. Like, why do you insist on ruining the game? And so I just muted him and I went and pulled, and then he was just spam pinging me like, why aren't you in the lane? Why don't you come, fight them? And I was just like, I didn't even respond, but I was just like, there's actually no way that we can contest them because we fucked it up in the first minute of the game. So I'm just going to continue to pull. I'm going to play the lane correctly as a support without the advantage.
People are such cucks, man. I hate people that do that.
I'm like, I know this matchup. I know my hero. You don't know my hero. You're playing a different hero than me. Like,
yeah. It's like there's so many cores that can't get ranged creeps too. It's like, dude, do you want to take 30% of your HP and damage to get that range creep?
Right.
Be my guest. Go for it. Yeah, it's just stupid. It's just so dumb.
Could you give me some ideas about how to counter Timber as a carry? That's kind of relevant to what we were just talking about. That's one of those heroes where you basically have to abuse him in the first wave.
Somebody just asked this, and I'm curious because people look weird on camera, look a lot different on camera than in real life. How tall do you think I am? I want people to tell me how tall do I look based on how I look on camera. I'm curious. I'm just curious how like off or close people will get. Don't answer if you know. If you there's a few people that'll know. I'm just curious. 4'2". So a lot of people think.
Most people think that you're like
5
very
feet.
very average height for a man.
Okay. Interesting. I kind of figured.
Lots of 420s.
Yeah. 6'9". Between 5'6" and 6'4". That's cheating. So okay, so it's like averaging like 5'8" or something. I'm 6'2".
Mm.
I have the voice of a short person. I wish that wasn't true. I'm 6'2". How much do you think I weigh? I think I look fatter on camera than I am in real life.
What about me? If they think, okay, now that I know you're 6'2", and I'm just curious how tall people think that I am in comparison.
Are you taller than me? Oh wait, actually, oh shit, I guess I just ruined it. 75 kilograms. I don't do kilograms. That's actually. I have a soft-looking face, not angular. Yeah, that's the problem. I've been kind of trying to bulk for.
Probably weigh just less than Shaq.
Bulking up on like trying to like get muscle has made my face look really fat, but my body doesn't look as fat as my face. It's a real problem. Funny. Such is life.
175
pounds. That's close. I'm like 180. How many In-N-Out burgers can you eat at once? A lot. Am I lifting? Yes. Playing Dota doesn't bulk you. I don't know why people seem to be think it's so impossible for somebody to have a girlfriend on the internet and for people to go to the gym. It's not that hard to go to the gym or to have a girlfriend.
Right.
That's something that can happen to. I've known like the nerdiest degenerate people that have girlfriends. It literally just meets. You just have to meet one person. How tall is Elevated? You're 6'3", right?
No, I'm just under 6'2", actually.
Oh, you're 6'2". Oh yeah, we're about the same height.
Yeah.
You're jacked though. At least you were when I saw you.
Yeah, I was back in the day. I haven't lifted very many weights recently.
I've been good. I've been doing good. I've been kind of like in the mindset of if I'm putting so much time into going to the gym anyway, I may as well do it right. So we're like trying to eat good. We're trying
Sure,
to
I agree with that.
we're trying to like walk and like meet a certain we're like counting calories to like hit a certain threshold, proteins, everything like that.
I've been going to so Kat goes to CrossFit, and most CrossFit gyms have like a team or like a guest day, which is Saturdays. And so I've been recently going on Saturday, except for I didn't go this last week. But
Is that a tricep flex? I don't know how to. I know how to flex my triceps while standing up, but I don't have pants on, so I can't do that. To bench 3 plates. Oh my god! I started benching a few weeks ago. I benched like 160.
that's not
Which
bad for just starting. Benching
no,
is
I
a
would
lot
like
more
to.
technique than anything else.
I would like to bench more, but I'm slowly working
I think my
my way up.
most was like 250. I think I did 250 or 255,
I can
but
curl.
can't do that anymore for sure.
I can curl like 40 in one arm. I was doing curls for a long time. I think I can curl like 45, 50 max. So I'm proud of that. I've been curling for a while, which is stupid because it's not even like a good
Curling is
exercise.
such a trash exercise.
It's a really trash exercise. I actually I've stopped doing it. I've stopped doing it. What'd you say you can bench?
I think I maxed out at like 250 or 255.
Wow. Wow,
But
that's really good.
that was like one rep, and that was probably like 5 years ago. I think I can do, if I were to start benching again. I haven't like lifted weights just because I've been doing more body weight stuff recently, if anything. But if I were to start benching again, I think probably within like 2 weeks, I could probably do 2 plates, like for maybe 3 or 4, and then from there I could go to
Two
reps.
plates is what? Two
225.
225? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
See, okay,
the thing
I
is,
think I
once you hit a certain threshold, your muscle mass will actually come back quicker. Um, this is actually like a proven thing. Where like if you've hit a certain threshold and you've kind of stuck there for a while, and then you stop exercising, then to get back there, it actually comes back pretty quickly if you just start doing it again.
fats like that as well. Because the fat cells stay, they just get smaller. Isn't that fucked? Um, I could bench more. I could definitely. I rep 160. I do like 30 or 40 of those. So just saying. I haven't tried to like max out. How many pull
Is
ups?
that bro science? I'm pretty sure I actually saw a study on that, but I could be wrong.
That yeah that might be bro science. The fat thing isn't bro science though. That's real. That's real stuff. My girlfriend told me that. She's very well versed in nutrition and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, let's that was a diversion.
So
Uh
one last thing on this, I started this
sure.
whole idea where, I mean, here's the thing: if you're playing like 8 to 10 games of Dota a day, you aren't moving enough, most likely, because you probably just like queue and you sit, and then maybe you go get a drink of water after 2 or 3 games, and then you queue and you sit, and you're not doing anything in between. So for a while there, I need to start doing this again. I was doing 100 reps of push-ups, some sort of pull exercise, either pull-ups or like hanging pull-ups, basically, where like I have a squat rack at my house, and so I put the squat rack like above me and basically do like pull-ups like this. You can't actually see what I'm doing, but like
I can't see
to
what you're
chest
doing.
pulls, like I'm hanging horizontally underneath the bar and using the bar as like a reverse bench press, basically.
Hmm.
And then so it's 100 reps of push, 100 reps pull, 100 reps of squat, and 100 reps of some abdominal exercise. And just doesn't have to be with any certain amount of weight, but just doing that much motion throughout the day, and I was feeling so much better than what I usually do.
Yep. I can't not go to the gym anymore. It just makes you feel insanely depressed and fucked up.
Yeah.
Play way worse. So walking is good. Anyway, we've hammered this subject into the ground. Trash Can Magic says, how many more dramatic changes do you think Dota can take before it starts to enter the end game?
Interesting. Well,
Not,
listen to the
not
rant
too
at the
many.
beginning of this video.
Not too many. T mugs. I got this one. This is the mug that I'm using. It's the cock. a cock. I have a few cock mugs, but that's the one I'm using. It's hefty. It's very big. That's why I like it. I'm drinking Lady Grey, by the way, for somebody that was asking. It's like Earl Grey, except with more citrus peel in it, like orange, lemon.
Interesting.
Dramatic changes. I feel like Dota has like 1 max 2 patches before it's kind of in the end game. Like they have redemption shots, but I don't think there's too many left. And I think Artifact plays a big role in that. It's like people are to some degree losing faith in Valve as a company.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel that way.
We've seen how quickly it can go downhill. Like it happened with Blizzard. Like they fucked Stark. Well, first of all, they fucked Diablo 3. They fucked they fucked World of Warcraft, then they fucked Diablo 3, then they fucked the StarCraft Pro League, then Overwatch came out, and then they forced Owl, which was trash, and then they released. I mean, Blizzard has just been it's been like 5 or 6 things, but after the first 2 or 3, people were just like, Blizzard is a trash company, and like that's the general consensus in the industry, is that Blizzard is a terrible company now.
And the problem is it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. It's the idea. It's like
That's
the
what happened with
brand.
Artifact. Artifact was a fun ass game, but the vast majority, I mean, granted, the paywall stuff was awful, but you could just see it. Like, there were people who wanted to like the game, but then they would go on the Artifact subreddit, and it would just be 25 pages of "this is the worst game I've ever played." And if you just read that enough, it eventually just embeds itself into your psyche, and you're like, am I actually liking this game? Am I in denial? Maybe it is a terrible game. And, like, that can happen very, very quickly, unfortunately.
Yep. If you look at a recent example, No Man's Sky, they really shit the bed on its launch. And if we look at the recent reviews, it's got an 89% approval rating on Steam. 89. That's
really
tremendous. Good. It's tremendous. But it was one of the most hyped games ever. And they brought it back with patches, but it doesn't matter. They're still seen as like a shit company. They're still seen as the game
will never be as successful as it could have been, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just the problem with branding. It's something that you can see in like cryptocurrency very quickly. If people start to lose faith in a crypto coin, very, very quickly it will devalue, and it can be irrecoverable. Even if it's completely fixed, it can be irrecoverable. That's just the nature of markets and ideas that people have, and it's a problem, and I really hope it doesn't have to happen to Dota, because I've not enjoyed a game. Like, Dota has ruined other games for me. So
I agree.
Like it's that good, and like I said, I still enjoy it and want to play it. I have not found another game to replace it, so it would suck. I've never played a game until it died. I've always jumped ship before. Like, I play for 10 years or 7 years or something, then I jump ship, then it dies, or I leave as it's dying or something. But with Dota, it's like this. Yeah, it would suck if it got killed. If it got killed. Ebert says, I played 3 games last night and lost 2.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear your dog.
He's howling at the siren.
He's being a bad boy. POs for all 3 games. POs. What does that mean? I noticed,
Position
and I
4?
rotated. Oh, pause 4. Okay, I see. Shit. Rotated, impacted multiple lanes in the game that I won, but I found myself stuck in position 4 off lane for the vast majority of the lane stage of my 2 losses. It's easy to know when to rotate when I'm stomping the lane and can leave the off laner solo, but in a close lane where I'm struggling to know when to rotate, what signals should I use to rotate? When should I be looking to rotate? Basically, how do I rotate? Are there times I should stay in my lane and not rotate? Not really. I would say as position 4, there are like 2 situations where you rotate. Situation 1, your offlaner can stomp without you. Situation 2, you don't need to be there for your offlaner to get what they're getting. Like, if you're getting cucked in a lane, sometimes the best thing you can do is just leave and then let your offlaner get cucked solo. Also, you should be roaming if the creeps are like pushing into the tower, because you don't need to be there to help your offlaner. So you need to be doing something else. You need to be roaming. You need to be stopping the pull. You need to not be standing there soaking XP. That's the number 1 time when you should be doing something else. as a pause for support is when the creep equilibrium is like right in front of your tower. Just go away. Just go away. Getting a kill's not even worth it. It's just all about the creeps.
Yep.
Just go do something else. Stack, pull, interrupt pulls, gank mid, like TP mid, gank mid, walk back top for when the lane pushes out. That's when you want to look to rotate.
Secure
but there's a lot of
power
situations.
runes.
Yeah, power runes. A little bit less so these days, just because they're so close to the mid lane that the mid laners are pretty good at securing them, unless it's like a very bottle intensive matchup, like some Storm Ember bullshit. Then yeah, it's weird. But yeah, with roaming, I would say don't feel bad about roaming. But the situations are like, it's just like when you don't need to be there. Period. You don't need to be there because you're losing anyway, and or you don't need to be there because you're owning anyway. That's about it.
Yeah, and don't be afraid just to make that distinction. Like, you can be wrong. It's shades of gray in that. Sometimes it's like, this lane's pretty hard. Maybe we could turn it around, but I could also just go somewhere else and maybe something better would happen. Just try it out, see what happens.
Yep. It's okay to make mistakes in Dota. You have to. Anyway, it's been 80 minutes.
All right. Is that
the
end of Patreon questions?
I think we call it here. Yeah, that's the end of Patreon questions. That was Ebert42, by the way.
Cool.
I forgot to mention who it was. That was Ebert42.
All right, final question, because it's been asked a couple times. Are you planning on going to TI10 in Sweden?
No, it's too expensive. Can't afford that.
Yeah, I would love to, but I think it would probably have to be on somebody else's dime as a content creator or something like that. Most likely. Although I've always wanted to go to Sweden, so I might make an exception, but it's also very hard to get tickets. Sweden's one of the most expensive places it could be. And I also have to pay for a wedding. So most likely not.
It's a rough life for married people.
Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with us. This is a little bit off the rails episode of Alchemy Answers, but I had fun. Hopefully you guys did as well. And we'll see you in another episode real soon. Good luck in your games and enjoy the minor, which is coming up. I think it's going to be a fun one. See you later.